All right, hey, what's up, y'all? So, how do you know if caffeine's affecting your sleep? Well, the only way to know is to do an experiment. And the experiment would be to either pull back on the amount of caffeine that you're consuming or completely eliminate it. Now, I think it would be insanity for me to take out coffee completely. I've done it in the past, and the misery that I suffered from not having the enjoyment of coffee outweighed whatever potential benefit there might be there. But I do believe in experimenting with the amounts, okay? Like most of you, like before transitioning to real food, I consumed a lot of caffeine, energy drinks, Red Bulls, a lot of coffee. And since I transitioned to real food and taught my body how to use fat for fuel, my energy levels became very consistent. I had less of a need for caffeine, but I still really enjoy coffee. But I also am trying to optimize my sleep. I feel like sleep is one of the biggest missing links for most people. Sleep makes everything better. Sleep is the best and most powerful free life enhancement tool that we have access to. So I'm always trying to optimize it. And I don't know if you knew this, but caffeine has a half-life of about 6 hours on average for most people, which means it takes 6 hours to dissipate half of the amount of caffeine that you've consumed out of your system. So if I consume 100 milligrams of caffeine, 6 hours later, I still have 50 milligrams of caffeine circulating through my system. And if you'll remember, caffeine preoccupies the receptor sites for this neurotransmitter called adenosine, which helps us to get tired and go to sleep. And so if caffeine is preoccupying those receptor sites, that gives us this feeling of being awake and alert. So caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant. And so we just want to be aware of that, okay? Our first basic foundational rule is not having caffeine within 6 hours of your projected bedtime. Most evenings I try to be in bed by 7 p.m., which means my cutoff time is 1 p.m. And I've been trying to pull that back to having my last cup of coffee around 12:30 p.m. But now I want to experiment with the amount that I'm consuming. All right, so I got a way that I'm doing that. And again, I think pulling out coffee completely is just out of the question for me right now. I either brew fresh coffee from ground beans, or I love these little Via instant packs from Starbucks. I love the flavor with a little bit of heavy cream or a little bit of goat milk. All right, now one of these packs contains estimated about 130 milligrams of caffeine, okay? That's a pretty whopping dose of caffeine. So my experiment is, instead of having this 2, 3, 4 times in a morning and before 1 p.m., I'm gonna have one of these to start the day off with, which I've already had one. And then mid-morning, somewhere around probably like 10:30, I'm gonna have a packet of less caffeine from Four Sigmatic, this mushroom coffee with cordyceps. Now, cordyceps have been clinically proven to enhance cardiovascular function, so they do have a little pick-me-up feeling without the central nervous system stimulant. And this has 50 milligrams of caffeine from some microground coffee, okay? So first thing in the morning, or my first cup of coffee after working out, that's usually around 7 a.m. I'm gonna have this cup of coffee with the Via Instant. That's 130 milligrams of caffeine, and instead of having this again later, I'm gonna have 50 milligrams of caffeine with my Four Sigmatic. That's gonna be around 10:30 or 11. And then by the time I get to my last cup of coffee, I'm gonna replace my last cup of coffee with one of my favorite teas by Harney and Sons. We love this company, all right? I've got some peppermint tea. Oh my gosh, this is so good. I love it. And then we've also got some ginger lemon tea, all right? Caffeine free. And I am going to allow myself to have just a little bit of honey with that, even though we're not big fans of sugar for the most part. Early in the day, I've done some glucometer and continuous glucose monitoring around honey, and honey's not a problem for me in small amounts. So anyway, that's my experiment. So the takeaway from this is, number one, be aware of your caffeine consumption. Stop your caffeine consumption within 6 hours of bedtime. And then the second experiment would be pull back on the amount of caffeine that you're consuming, with the ultimate goal of seeing how it affects your sleep patterns, all right? Make it a great day, y'all. Now, pro tip, experimenting with the amount of caffeine and the timing of it is smart. Going completely without coffee is not.